Today, we bring you Zuko Saule, a maritime professional sitting in Port Elizabeth. Zuko, it's great to have you join us today.
Thank you for having me. Look forward to the discussion.
To begin our conversation, we have emerged from a national lockdown which lasted a good 7 months, where the country and virtually all economic activity came to a grinding halt. Even though now we are at alert level 1, we can all agree that it will take a good while for things to get back where they were operationally and economically. Port Elizabeth and the Greater Eastern Cape economy depend mainly on agricultural and automotive exports for survival. In the second and third quarter, are things as bad as we thought or not as bleak as we hoped? What have you seen, Zooks, in the container, bulk, and automotive flows in PE and in Ngqura?
Well, things are as bad as we say they are, or as bad as we understand them to be, looks regrettably. In the past few months, we've seen a steady decrease in volumes, caused primarily by the COVID situation. If you recall, at the start of COVID, at level 5, only essential items, which were classified as food items, and also medical items or medicines, were, allowed to move to and from South Africa. We also saw a decrease in terms of port calls, where, for instance, Ngqura moved from a 4-berth operation to a 1-berth operation, so there was much less volume moving than previously. So also, PE, as you rightly said, it's hugely automotive and agricultural sector, or agricultural based economy. So we saw a lot of decrease in volume, both imports and exports. Automotives was very much down. We saw OEMs closing down, and tire producers or manufacturers, to the extent, in fact, that, for instance, Bridgestone or Firestone is retrenching a few of its staff.
Oh, no.
Yeah, that's sadly the case. And we expect, one or two other automotive suppliers to follow suit. So it is regrettably the case. But of course, with alert level 4, we saw, agriculture and manufacturing come back online. So we saw, your timber, we saw your manufacturing, your chemicals, your car manufacturers coming back online. This was around June. So there is some recovery, but of course, we're not going to make back what we lost in those 3 months of alert level 5.
Sure.
But on the other hand, fortunately, the reefer or peak season citrus has picked up from last year's volumes, which were, or what the increase is about 15% in crop. And also, I was reading the report from the Citrus Growers Association, saying that we've done very well in terms of exports this year, and they account for about 80,000 containers being moved to 120 countries. So it's a huge plus. But of course, there were challenges. Of course, with the COVID, you saw a situation where where the fruit was picked, the fruit was packed in containers, but we ran out of storage facilities for these containers. Also, we saw a lot of containers sitting in port, waiting for vessels, due to congestion, etc., etc. So we are a bit concerned about the quality. What has set South Africa apart in the past is our exceptional quality in our fruit. And with containers sitting in port, some in transit for some 2 months from picking to the end receiver. So there's a huge concern around quality. So we're a bit concerned about that. We don't want a situation where our established markets, Europe, and our emerging markets, such as China, looking elsewhere, for fruit, when we have all this projected crop coming online in the next few years. So yeah, that's been the situation in the past few months. We are hopeful that we'll make strides. We're gonna see our Q3 stats coming out soon, and hopefully in Q4 we'll really do well. But as things stand, it's been difficult in the past few months. Yes.
No, quite. Well, on the bright side, on more operational issues, Transnet Port Terminals has invested 2 billion rand, or 121 million US dollars, to replace aging equipment this current calendar year to improve operations. The investment includes 2 mobile harbor cranes for the Port Elizabeth container terminal, which will largely benefit the automotive and the agricultural bulk sectors. Where are we with this? Have these equipment been commissioned? Is it?
We understand that these cranes were delivered in April, which came just in time, for the peak reefer season.
Sure.
If you remember correctly, last year we had a situation where there was a labor action in the port. So both services to Europe, as an example, South African Europe Container Service and the other Europe services, were bunched into one port, which is problematic because of the number of containers that they export, and also the available plugs for connection on these reefer containers. So this year, thankfully, that there's not been that. The port of Ngqura and port of PE operated separately in terms of these services. Also, in terms of the minerals, which would fall under the agriculture, I suppose. The last time we spoke, China had stockpiled, I think, 4.2 million metric tons of manganese. They have done so as well at this period. I think the number was 7.1 million metric tons. Of course, these drive the prices down because there's less demand.
Quite.
So we're seeing a lot less container movement, and we're seeing a lot of bulk movement because it's cheaper. So yeah, that's been the unfortunate thing where we're losing out on containers. But then again, on the PE side, the bulk is benefiting. So, it's a trade-off between the two. So at least, it's still moving. But of course, we're in the container sector, we'd like manganese to be moved in containers.
Quite. On more worrying issues, COSATU plans a nationwide worker strike on the 7th of October, 2020. This really comes at a time which is difficult for our country's economy. From where I'm standing, the issues, corruption, job losses, defense of collective bargaining, gender-based violence, which will form part of the memorandum, can only really be resolved by growing and undisrupted economic activity. As you made me aware, this is part of a series of labor actions that are also affecting port operations. Tell us a little bit about this, Zuko.
So it's a bit troubling. Of course, these are legitimate issues that COSATU and the other unions are raising, which we support. But of course, from a business perspective, coming out of COVID, you wonder whether it's the correct time, because we've lost so much jobs, lost so much in terms of the economy. So any disruption is a bit concerning because it doesn't only affect the people involved, it affects, the workers, their families. So, and of course, the bottom line, which, companies have lost a lot of money this year, so we don't want them losing any more money. But of course, these issues must be addressed. But, we're wondering whether there are other avenues that can be explored other than, a strike. And having said that, we hope for, that this will be a short strike, 1 day as indicated, and we hope there won't be any property damages, equipment damages, truck or driver injuries, and things such as that. We'd like it to be a peaceful protest, and the memorandum be handed over so that these issues may be addressed. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, we'll see what happens. Hopefully, yeah, as you say, it's going to be a peaceful one.